So what I did right here, I just put some lines just for indications, just to divide the ground from the sky. When it comes to landscaping, the way it usually works, it's people build layers over layers. First they start with the background, which is the sky, then the ground, and then when the paint dries, they start adding the colors on top, like the other details. So you work yourself from the back, and then you move forward with the painting. So the smaller little details, those are the last things we're gonna be doing. So in my palette, I have pink and purple. So I'm gonna grab some pink and purple, and I'm gonna mix them together, the pink and purple, to create like a violet color. So I'm mixing some of the pink and purple together, and I'm gonna add some white, just some white, to create like a lighter shade of violet. See? So when you blend in like half purple and half pink, it creates like a violet, and then you add some white and creates like a lighter shade of that color. So I'm gonna start by adding that on the background. And make sure you grab a lot of paint. When it comes to backgrounds, you need a lot of paint. Make sure you grab a lot of paint. So I'm gonna start painting my background. And I noticed that there's white right here. So as it moves down, it gets lighter. So I'm gonna try to make this part lighter, and the top part is gonna be darker. It's very important to grab a lot of paint. The more paint that you grab, it's going to be easier to move the paintbrush around. So I'm going to grab more purple, more pink, put that on top. And if I'm going too fast, feel free to stop the video. That's the great thing about watching video tutorials, is that you can stop and you can catch up with me. It's not like when I'm doing it live that people have to finish as I move on with the steps of the painting. And then you have access to this video to keep watching it over and over again if you want to create this painting again. So I'm just adding white here because I want to make this part lighter. So by adding a lot of paint, by loading your paintbrush, that's how you're able to create those transitions. You need to grab a lot of paint on your paintbrush. And in case you're not happy with your background or the ground, and if you want to change it, you have to let the paint dry first. You have to let it dry first. When it dries completely, then you can add another layer of paint. If you don't wait for your paint to dry completely, then it's gonna start to come off, and it's just not gonna look right. So just wait for your paint to completely dry if you want to add another layer of paint. So I am almost done with this part right here. Now I'm just gonna grab some more white, add more white. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean my paintbrush. And I use a paper towel. When I use a paper towel, it removes the extra paint that stayed inside the paintbrush. And I want to grab more white, so I need a cleaner paintbrush. So I'm just gonna pour more white in here. Just gonna add more white. Some white lines. So I'm just gonna leave it like this. I think I am happy with my background. I'll move on. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean my paintbrush. I'm gonna grab some of the brown paint. And I'm going to need some black paint. So I have brown and black. So I'm gonna grab some brown and some black. And I'm gonna put it right here. So this is gonna be like the background. This is gonna get covered with green. Just gonna add more brown with black here. And I'm gonna grab brown and I'm gonna grab some white. So right here is brown with white, and we're just creating a path. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. We're just creating like a base, like a color base, and later we're gonna add more color. So don't worry about keeping it perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it like that. So I'll go ahead and clean my paintbrush. So if you feel that your paint is still too wet, you can use a blow dryer. And with a blow dryer, you're gonna dry the paint. So now I'm gonna move on to a background, and I'm gonna add the leaves of the trees that are in the background. So I'm going to start by using pink. And I'm still using the big paintbrush. So with the background, you start with the big paintbrush. And also with the leaves, you start with the big paintbrush. So right now we're only using big paintbrush. So I'm gonna grab some pink and some white. So I have some white and some pink. And I'm gonna start by doing some crisscrosses. So those are like the leaves in the background. So those are like indications of leaves. And I'm just adding leaves. And they're not all in the same direction. So some of them are to the left, some of them are going to be to the right. And see how I move my paintbrush? So I'm going to grab some pink and some white together. Just going to add more. So try not to think about it too much. Some people, they feel a little scared that they're gonna mess up the painting, but no. This is the fun part about painting. So that's what I'm doing. See? And you can do the same thing. If you have a paintbrush that looks like this, like the round one, it's still the same thing. Just adding more. And you want to grab some white and you want to make some that have white that creates contrast on your leaves. The white paint. I noticed that I use a lot of white for my painting. It's because it creates contrast and it makes the colors pop more. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. See how I left a spot right here? So I left that open because I'm gonna add blue leaves right there. That's gonna be like kind of like the shadow of the leaves. So I'm gonna grab some pink and some white. So pink and white. And I'm doing the same thing. See? Doing the same thing. See how I'm moving my paintbrush around? See how I'm moving it around? There's a pink. So some of them are gonna be darker and some of them are gonna be lighter. So I'm gonna grab some white. Some of them are gonna be lighter, some of them are gonna be darker. Now, I noticed that when I recreate a painting, it never looks exactly the same thing as the first one. It's almost impossible to recreate exactly the same painting. They're always gonna look different. Even when I teach them at paint parties, then they're gonna look a little different than my original one. Especially when I'm teaching paint parties, I need to paint faster. So I can't really worry about having that painting look exactly the same. So just add more. And if you want to make changes, just let it dry. So I'm going to clean my paintbrush. I noticed that this one's a little bigger than this one, but that's okay. Now I'm going to grab some blue paint and white paint together like that. Now I do the same thing. Ooh, I grab some brown. And I'm doing exactly the same thing. See? And now I'm overlapping them a little bit. I'm overlapping them. Grab more blue paint. And I want this part to be darker. So I'm gonna grab more blue paint. I'm gonna do this part right here. I'm going to overlap them a little bit. I'll grab some white, grabbing some white paint. Adding some white. I'm gonna add more white on top. There should be more lighting on top. And the bottom should be darker, because that should be like the shadow. Now, I'm just gonna let that dry, clean my paintbrush. And I'm gonna move on to the ground. So I'm gonna grab my green paint. So I'm gonna create some, kind of like some bushes. So just try not to make things too perfect. Like I said, if you don't like it, just let it dry and you can paint over it again. So I'm adding some green right here. So I'm just gonna grab some green and add like some little bushes. And I'm gonna go back and add more details when it dries. So just trust the process. Just trust the process. It's step by step. So I'm going to clean my paintbrush. And I noticed that there's some little trees in the back, like really far away. So I'm gonna grab some of that purple and pink and put it in the background. see it in the back. So I'm using the side of my paintbrush, the skinny side. So I'm using the skinny side of my paintbrush. I'm adding some pink. And I'm also gonna add a little bit of blue, just a tiny bit. Not too much. Mostly like on the side. And some white. Since it's farther away, it should be lighter. Things that are farther away look lighter. Like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my blow dryer again. So I noticed that it needs more white. So I'm gonna grab more white paint and I'm gonna add it on the blue leaves. That's the good thing about acrylic paint, is that you can always cover your mistakes. You just have to let it dry first and paint over it. The white paint makes a big difference. It makes the leaves pop more. I'm also going to add white on the pink leaves. And as you can see how it makes a huge difference, those highlights. Okay, now I'm going to work on the path. And I'm gonna grab yellow paint. So I'm using the same paintbrush, but I'm gonna use it the skinny side of the paintbrush. So with my yellow paint, make sure that you grab enough yellow paint. You're gonna paint lines, paint loose lines. Don't try to make them perfect. Now I'm grabbing white paint. I'm adding them on top of the yellow paint. Now I'm grabbing some brown paint. Make sure not to blend them too much. You want to see the texture of the lines. So don't over blend them. And I am using my paintbrush side to side. I'm gonna add more white to brighten that path. And I'm still using the skinny side of my paintbrush. Now we're gonna work on the trees. So I'm gonna switch to the skinny paintbrush. I'm gonna load it with black paint. Make sure to grab enough black paint. I'm gonna start from the bottom. The first tree should be the biggest one. So make sure to draw that line, but don't make it a straight line. So just pull those branches upwards. You need to have enough paint in your paintbrush so that you're able to pull those branches upward. And try not to make them straight. Now for the second one, it's going to be slightly smaller than the first one. And you're going to continue doing exactly the same type of branches. And for the left side, you're going to do exactly the same thing. Remember, your lines do not have to be straight. Okay, now we're going to paint the trees that are farther away. I'm going to grab pink paint and I'm going to mix in some black so that it could be a darker shade of pink. Using the same paintbrush, I'm going to continue drawing those trees. And the ones that are further away, remember to do them smaller. By continuing to draw the tree smaller, it creates depth in the painting. Okay, now we're going to work on the ground. And we already added our first layer of green earlier. It should be dry by now. So I'm gonna grab yellow paint and I'm gonna blend it in with green. So you want a light green. And you're gonna dab your paintbrush. So I'm grabbing more yellow so that it pops more. You wanna make sure that you're grabbing more yellow than green so that it pops more and it gives it that highlight. So now I'm just dabbing the paintbrush. I'm dabbing the paintbrush to create that texture of like grass or like it could be bushes or some big grass. So remember to grab more yellow than green. So I'm grabbing more yellow and I'm just dabbing the paintbrush. Just dabbing the paintbrush. And I am overlapping with the brown where the path is. So just continue doing the same thing, dabbing your paintbrush and grabbing more yellow. and I am overlapping it with the path like that. It by having that overlapping, it makes the path, it's starting to look more like a path now that the green, it's overlapping with the brown. So on the other side, just continue to do the same thing. You're dabbing that paintbrush and you are creating like a texture like of like some grass. Okay, so I'm gonna grab some white. So I'm gonna grab some white and I'm gonna start adding some highlights. I didn't clean my paintbrush, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add some highlights. So some highlights right there. To just give it more highlights. I'm not cleaning my paintbrush. So, adding more white. And I'm gonna add some white right here. Some more highlights right there. And more right there. And to make this more interesting, I'm gonna add a little bit of orange. And just a little bit of orange. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of orange, just a little bit of orange. And I'm just gonna add just a tiny little bit. Just a tiny bit. And just add more green right there. So I'm just adding green. Green. a little bit of green. Okay, now we're gonna grab some of this black, and you know what, it would have been better to add the black before adding that light green, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do it like this with black. So I'm gonna grab just a little bit of black. Like that. So just a little bit of black. Add some black lines. Grab some white. Okay, my paintbrush. And I'm gonna move on to the small little paintbrush right here. And I'm gonna grab some black paint. So I'm gonna grab some black paint. And from right here, it's too much. So from right there, I'm gonna draw a big line going up. So draw a big line going up, like that. And that's gonna be the tree that's closest to me. So this one's gonna have more details because it's closer. And I'm just pulling them out. I'm gonna draw another one right here. I'm gonna grab some white. I'll start adding some white lines in here. Just adding some white lines. And the paint is still wet, so I'm just adding the white lines on top of black paint. And it looks like there's like another branch like this. So I'm gonna grab more black. And I'm gonna move on to this section right here. And I'm gonna add the tree. Now I'm gonna start from here. And I'm gonna add a tree right here. So this is gonna be all the way up. Add one right here. There's another one right here. And I'm gonna add the other one. So from here, right there, and it looks like it's all the way up. So this one does look more straight, all the way up. And it has a few branches. I'm gonna grab some of the white paint and also adding some white highlights here. Doing some white highlights here. Some more highlights. I'm just gonna add more white paint here. with the white paint, you want to add it on the left side of the tree. It's like the light that's coming from the center. So by adding that white highlight, it makes a big difference in your painting, especially in the trees that are in the foreground of the painting. Things that are bigger and that appear to be closer to the viewer should always have more details. So adding that white paint really helps a lot to add those details on the tree. So on the tree that's on the left side, you want to add the highlight to the right side. And make sure to add a highlight on each branch. Right here. Okay, so it looks like we are almost done with this painting. So right here, I'm just gonna make this a little wider. Make this a little wider. And now, since we're almost done with the entire painting, I'll grab some green with some yellow. And I'll probably just add some green. Maybe just look around and just see where it needs more green. So right now, you decide if you think you're done. I'm just adding final details, just looking around the painting to see if anything needs to be added. So my painting looks about done. It looks like everything's done. So hope you guys had a good time painting with me. And just remember to trust the process. And if you want to make changes, you have to let it dry. If you don't have a blow dryer, then just let it air dry. This paint dries really fast, so it shouldn't take too long to dry. Yeah, so it looks like I am done. Hope you guys enjoyed it and trust the process. Yeah, in the beginning you couldn't really tell what it was, but now you can see the whole picture. I hope to see your paintings. Maybe you guys can post them on social media and share them with me. And that's it for today's art lesson. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.